Welcome back. Welcome back. Long time. It has been approximately 2 weeks since we have done a SuperFlow Bros podcast. I am your co-host Marcus Flowers, aka Flo, aka Call Me What You Want. Just don't call me lazy. At one Marcus Flowers on all social media platforms, and I am joined by
Y'all know who it is, the one who will rise above, Metro Meta, he who shall not be named. And I'm so excited to get into it this week.
yeah. It's been 2 weeks since we've done a podcast. Last week just like a lot has happened, and we actually did record. We recorded both the Super Flow Bros and a Dust Off the Cartridge podcast, but I just took accountability, and just our energy was off, and we didn't sound like we just for some reason we didn't sound like our normal selves. And over here at 26 in Glencoe, we like to make sure that we are giving you the best content, the best audio product that you can get from us. So I just took it upon myself and just said, "Hey, let's scratch it. Things are off, and we'll come back next week." So, and that is good because we don't have sponsors, so we're not on a timeline or a deadline or anything like that.
But we did have you put out a podcast
Oh yeah. I
today,
did.
and we did have that Denver podcast. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. I was gonna wait till the end to talk about it, but I guess I can talk about it now. I did a what it means to be successful, just like being successful and being black and being a millennial in just Denver, Colorado, with a person who I've known for over almost, I want to say almost 20 years, Aaliyah Martin, at Black Ginger Girl on Instagram. And the two of us, it was just, it was real fly. It was just, because Aaliyah and I, we haven't really communicated that much. But I saw that she originally had a podcast coming out, I believe last month, but for some reason it never came out. So I just hit her up on the side and said, "Hey, what happened to your podcast?" And she said, "Oh, things fell through and it's just not happening." And I said, "Hey, I just ignited her, and I was like, hey, if you really want your content out here, if you don't want people dancing, if you don't want to promote and all that, just come over to 26 in Glencoe." And that's what we did. We talked about a lot. We talked about success, friendship, dating, relationships. Yeah. Oh, and I also before that I did a podcast. So I believe I said it on last Superflow Bros and Dust Off, just about interracial dating in Denver, Colorado. I had with my friends Ro Nose, Cap Handsome, Shanae, and Unfriendly Black Girl, and that's pretty fly as well. So make sure you are checking those out. But yeah, without further ado, let's just jump right in. So before we really get in, today normally we start front porch. Well, normally the way the Super Flow Bros podcast is orchestrated, we start from the front of the house to the end of the house. But today I just decided just to switch things up. We're starting at the back of the house, going to the front. So we're starting with the grand opening, grand closing, and we're talking about the unfortunate murder slash passing of artist slash entrepreneur Nipsey Hussle. Morgan, have you heard? Have you been? Have you had your ear to the streets about this?
I mean, as many of my friends will tell you, I'm not as in depth in the hip hop community. So a lot of things do fly by me, but you don't even have to be in the hip hop community to see how this has been affecting the black community and the hip hop community as well. So I have heard some of this.
Yeah, and just because, well, just a little background about me. Nipsey Hussle was actually one of the reasons why I wanted to start 26 in Glencoe in the way that I started it, just because when I'm doing like freelancing, or well, I had a writing opportunity. I was a freelance writer for Dunk 360. It was dunk360.com, and I was writing about combat sports, cultures, NBA, wrestling, pro wrestling, everything in between. I wrote like 700. I want to say even maybe close to like 800 articles, like listicles, opinion pieces, up to date news stories, and suddenly that site just went away. The funding was cut, and it just went away, and it was like all the work that I put in over the past uh 4 years just was gone, and that really hurt me, and it made me start to I always felt this way, but it really made me start to realize the importance of ownership and even owning your own content, such as I believe I spoke about this before, but even with our podcast, we necessarily may not we don't own it when we put on YouTube, but we do own it when we put it on our podcast platform. Just because we don't directly put, we do it through a hosting site, and so we post through the hosting site. That's where we get our analytics and everything like that. So we're not just posting directly to Apple, to Spotify, to everywhere you can hear our podcast. It's because I wanted to have that control. I didn't want to have a feeling where a publisher or an advertiser could just say, I'm not really feeling 26 and Glencoe anymore. Let's just wipe out all this stuff. It's really just creative control, and that's one of the main things why Nipsey Hussle has always been just a strong influence to me. And not only was he a strong influence to me, just like an entrepreneur with his Vector, I think it was Vector 60 or Vector 40 or Vector 80, his co-working space with David Gross, his Crenshaw, his Marathon clothing store, and the way I've always prided myself of being a student of the game, and especially a person of the stature of Nipsey's. I've watched him since he first came on my radar when he dropped. I don't want to say when he dropped around the mixtape. Bullets Don't Have No Name Volume 3, and he was rapping about Keys to the City, and then I've been a fan ever since, and it's just been ever since that day I've always been fascinated with his moves. I watched him talk about it in all his documentaries, talk about how he used to sell t-shirts outside of the square that he owns now. And what's also great about Nipsey is what I'm trying to just like do as just like a human being, as a person, is just not only lift myself up, but also lift up other people as well on the journey. Because Nipsey was not the richest rapper. He wasn't the most wealthiest entrepreneur, but he never left a person behind. And he always just had so much love for everybody. Everybody showed him love. And even just like seeing social media the past week and a half and seeing how just like the outpouring of love that was like, and just like the peace that he brought to everybody's lives. It's been crazy. And I wasn't conscious. Well, I don't want to say I wasn't conscious, but I didn't really have the mindset that I do now when Tupac and when Biggie died. But I do feel it was something of this magnitude. But I would say it's even higher because Nipsey had a way that he just touched everybody's soul. And the way he did that was just through his actions. He was always a man of his word, but he backed up his words with his actions. And that's just like something that I've always tried to strive for just by watching Nipsey, and I've tried to gain from just watching his moves and how he interacts as a person. Morgan, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I didn't know who Nipsey was when he was alive. I was just now hearing about him, but just seeing how he has affected the people around him, I can tell that he was a very great man.
Yeah, for sure. Rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle. His funeral is tomorrow at the Staples Center. Well, it's today because we're recording on Wednesday, so it's Thursday. We're dropping this on Thursday, so it's at the Staples Center. Sold out in 20 minutes, so that's just awesome. He's having a 25-mile. I don't quite know what you call it before you go into the grave, but he's having that just going around Los Angeles. So yeah, that's about it for the grand opening, grand closing. But moving on, the dining room. So the legacy of Kirstjen Nielsen. If you guys do not know who Kirstjen Nielsen is, She is the former Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. And her legacy is one of family separation, of torture, of doing lasting damage for decades on decades on decades that will probably take a while to repair. Morgan, are you familiar with her resigning?
Yeah, I did. I heard about this. I mean, it's hard to keep track of how many people have resigned from the Trump White House. I was looking at the Daily Show has their bingo board, and I was counting the squares, and like in my head, I was just like, it seems like more people have resigned from his administration than that are left.
Yeah,
It's
it's
strange.
like a revolving door. And the thing about Nielsen is there's going to be like the picture painted that she was just following orders when it came to things like family separation and locking up children and just basically doing whatever the president felt necessary to keep America great. But that just because she did the president's will, she is her own person. She wasn't just a pawn in this, and I fear that that is where the problem is going to arise because people are going
Well, it's
to.
important.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I would say it's important. It's important, even if she was just a pawn. It's important to remark that she was willing to be that pawn.
Yeah, she was a willing accessory, and I don't some people's actions just when it comes to life in general, some people's actions are so severe and so deadly that they don't deserve rehabilitation. Like I believe what Trump is this is off of Nielsen, but what Trump is doing right now and not in just 2 years of him being president, he's really broke down democracy. And so it's crazy what he's done in 2 years. And I don't think anybody in this administration deserves rehabilitation. But we've seen over and over again how open and willingly many Americans are to just saying, "Oh, they made a mistake." Like just like his first secretary of not secretary of state, his press secretary, what's his name, Sean Spicer, and how he was like at award shows and people were like kissing him on the cheek and he was smiling, having a good time. Meanwhile, and he actually made a joke while he was presenting an award, like this is the biggest award show ever, in reference to his statement that Trump had the biggest inauguration crowd ever. And so that type of rehabilitation should not happen for anybody in this administration. It's absurd. Nielsen, will she also she was just a bad. I don't want to say she was a bad person at her job, but she was cruel. But she wasn't cruel enough for Trump because she had 22 departments reporting to her, and Trump's main focus has always been immigration on the southern border, and so she couldn't be cruel and ship all her resources to immigration because she was spread out, and that's why she lost her job. But safe trails to Kirstjen Nielsen. Hope we never hear from you again. Moving on. So, Morgan,
Yes.
do you remember back in 2016 when, or 2000, let's not say 2006, 2015, when Bernie Sanders started his presidential campaign? Who do you remember who were the bad guys of his campaign? Who he made out to be the villains of his presidential bid and who he was fighting against?
The top 1%.
So he was fighting for the millionaires. He was fighting for the working class. He was fighting for white working class people against the millionaires and the billionaires.
Yeah.
And sorry about that. But he was fighting he said he was fighting on the man against the millionaires and billionaires. Well, shocker, 4 years later, and he has a certain change of tune because he now declares himself a millionaire and he's going to finally release his taxes on Monday. And he says the reason why he's a millionaire now is because he sold a New York Times best-selling book. And of course, automatically, when you sell a New York Times best-selling book, you're gonna be a millionaire, according to Bernie Sanders. So actually, let me pull up the quote. I don't have it. Uh, but while I'm looking up the quote, so yeah, basically, Bernie Sanders was like, "Yeah, I'm a millionaire. I'm gonna release my taxes on Monday." But Bernie said in 2015 that his taxes were boring, and his wife does his taxes, and they're boring, so he doesn't need to see him. Then he said he didn't release his taxes because he was not the Democratic candidate, and so
And
oh
yeah, I mean, you gotta think about this from a point of view of course, the Democrats are trying to push for getting Trump's tax returns. So, of course, Bernie Sanders not putting his out, he's gonna be railroaded into that. So you might as well get ahead of the story. As far as him being a millionaire because of just book investments, I mean, you make a lot of money if you're a New York bestseller. I wouldn't say it'd make you a millionaire. He's not J.K. Rowling's type of famous. He had like two good hits. He's not Michelle Obama's skyrocketing. I would say he probably got a better deal than most writers do. But most of his money, like most congressmen, just probably came from basic just investments and real estate.
okay, yeah, and so we're gonna get to that in a second. He said, "I wrote a best-selling book. If you write a best-selling book, you can be a millionaire too." So so of course, but if we like put the shoe on somebody like Hillary Clinton or Elizabeth Warren, if they would have said the exact same statement, Bernie Sanders definitely would have been on the attack against them. But one thing, there's also like you said, Morgan, they get their money from investments and real estate. But one but one thing that we do not know, one thing that Sanders has done, he has consistently been on the side of Russia when it comes to when it just comes to like sanctioning them. He's been against voting for him. He's been against everything. He's been against everything that you should be pro US and not Russia. He's been pro Russia and not US. And so it's going to be interesting to see. He said he's only going to release he said he's going to release 10 years of his tax statements. The 15th is Monday. So we will see if they come out, but I'm sure it's going to be heavily redacted, or he's going to say he's just doing last year's taxes. But it's also going to be interesting to see because he did buy a $500,000 home in Connecticut right after the presidential election in 2016. So it's going to see how he got that money and if it was and how he accounted for it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So we're cooking in the kitchen now. Um, it has been an unfortunate start to the road to October. The Colorado Rockies have a have started with the franchise worst 3-9 record. Um, and I watched all those games,
Yikes.
and it has been rough. They have also been marred by injuries. David Dahl, the injury reserve list for the Rockies is crazy. We suck on pitching, fielding, scoring. Basically, whatever in baseball you're supposed to be good at, the Rockies have been slacking at. Yesterday, the Rockies lost 5-6-1 to the Atlanta Braves. They were supposed to play today, but it was postponed due to weather. But I think that postponement was just a benefit to the Rockies because I feel like they would have lost again. Hopefully they turn it around before it's too late. But yeah, that's about it. It's been It's been pretty rough in the land of course field. Moving on, HBO denies removing Neverland, the Neverland documentary. So, I don't know if you've been following this, Morgan, but I forgot what website, but a website posted a story with no sources or links that said HBO was removing Leaving Neverland, and that Oprah deleted all her interviews with people with the victims of Michael Jackson off of her YouTube page, but that was false. And so the official statement is the report is untrue. Leaving Neverland is available on HBO through April 16th, and then will continue to be available on HBO Now and HBO Go. It is now the second most watched documentary on HBO in 10 years, having reached 7.5 million people for part one. Okay, so before we get any deeper into this, Morgan, do you think Michael Jackson did it?
I haven't watched the doc, but I've seen some conflicting stories. Like some people have been pointing out holes in some of the victims' stories. I would say I think at this point we may never know, but there's a good chance he might have.
So you're basically on the fence. Okay. All right. All right. I will say I think he did do something. Um, yeah, I'll go out there. I will go out there and say, hey, I haven't listened to a Michael Jackson song since I watched the documentary. So, yeah, I wouldn't say I've canceled Michael Jackson, but I do not associate myself with the Michael Jackson brand.
Well, Michael Jackson, I think one of the big differences Michael Jackson is gone. Even you're not supporting him anymore. But what I will say on this subject that I find very interesting is just the ideal of just a website being able to say, "Hey, this is gone," and people just believing it. And I think we have to think about that in this new social media age where people don't look at stories with the right skepticism that they should. And one of the biggest examples I've seen of this just this week is Little Nas X. Marcus, I don't know if you follow him on Twitter, but he's been up and coming. He's finally got his check marks. And every once in a while, he'll throw out a joke about who he wants to partner with, and immediately they'll throw out a story online that'll be like, oh, he's about to partner with such and such and such and such. And he's coming back saying, no, I was joking. So I think we have to start thinking about the level of journalistic integrity and how deeply we look into these stories going into the future.
Yes, and also not believing in actual fake news because that is dangerous.
Yeah.
All right, and last thing on the kitchen, the legacy of Dame Dash continues. So, Dame Dash, who was a co-founder of Rockefeller Records and Rockefeller Streetwear, he continues to reinvent himself. He has reinvented his streaming platform, Dame Dash TV Studios. He's bought back Rachel Roy, and so yeah, this just goes to show that you're never too old to try something new, do something new, and always the importance of ownership. Just because since he owned something, he was able to leverage his cultural currency, and not only have cultural currency, but also have the financial capital to not only do something but take risk and do it on your own. But that's it for the kitchen. We're heading to we're in the living room now. Morgan, have you heard about the Algorithmic Accountability Act?
Yeah, I was looking at this. I find it very interesting as a concept. Algorithms are very difficult to pin down just because of how complex they are. And whenever we look at the government being involved in tech, the fact that they don't understand it is always a big factor in it. You can look at what's happening in New Zealand when they started to pass those content ID laws for places like Google and Facebook, to where people are fighting against it for different reasons. So this, I think, however, will be very interesting to see what happens.
Okay, so the Algorithmic Accountability Act is sponsored by Senators Cory Booker and Ron Wyden, with the House equivalent sponsored by Rep. Yvette Clarke. And if passed, it would ask the Federal Trade Commission to create rules for evaluating high sensitive automatic systems. So the Algorithmic Accountability Act is aimed at major companies with access to large amounts of information. It would apply to companies that make over 50 million per year, hold information on at least 1 million people or devices, or primarily act as data brokers that buy and sell consumer data. So, this algorithm act, I feel like it's a case of too little, too late. Just because we're so far into this technology age, like it's going to be. I don't want to say it can't be difficult, but technology companies have literally been getting away since like 2001 with taking our data and harvesting it and farming it and giving it out to third party consumers. And Apple has come out and said, "Hey, we're gonna keep your data and your privacy safe," but we still don't know how that's going to affect down the road. Like they could change from here and there, and it's interesting how they're coming after a lot of social media sites, such as Facebook, such as Instagram, such as not well, Facebook and Instagram are the same, but how Facebook and Twitter, and just saying, "Hey, you can't do this. We're going to keep you in check." And the problem with dealing with government and technology is that technology can literally ruin the government. Like that's how bad it has gotten now. At Amazon, they own. Oh, sorry. That was actually that was my tablet. So when I said the word Amazon, my tablet lit up. Pretty scary. I was not expecting that. I forgot. But so Amazon has gotten to the fact that actually I want to turn that off. But okay, but nah. So this so I'm gonna just call it Jeff Bezos' company. So Jeff Bezos' company has gotten to the fact where they are not only where they own a third of the government's cloud. When that needs to be broken up immediately. Elizabeth Warren set out passed that will regulations that is set to break up these big tech companies. But when you have a technology company that has that much sensitive information, that is a data risk, that is a security risk, and it's only a matter of time before the right hackers or the right people get in and they ruin whatever sensitive information that's available. So I think this act is good. I just think it's a little bit too late and it doesn't go far enough.
Yeah, and it's very difficult for us to regulate something that can be just changed in an instant. But moving on, let's go to this. This story actually seems very interesting.
Actually, it does not seem interesting at all. So, because T-Mobile has sucky service, they're saying, "Hey, we're doing hey, even though we can't get our service right, we're moving on to a home TV service. It's called TVision or TVision.
Oh
Home."
gosh, that name is awful. Who came up with that? There needs to be someone. There needs to be a government regulation on awful names. That's what I want. That's what I want right now.
Okay, so T-Mobile's TV service is a quote unquote disruptive new TV service, and it will be launched on April 14th, 2019, which is this Sunday. The service will first be available in Chicago, Dallas, LA, in New York, Philadelphia, San Francisco, DC, and Longmont. All right, that's weird.
Why Longmont?
So the service starts at $100 per month for more than 100,
Oh, whoa,
150 channels, minus a $9.99 month discount for T-Mobile customers, which will initially be offered to everybody. The channel lineup includes local broadcast stations, regional sports, and other traditional paid TV channels. TVision website says the full service has more than 275 total channels available.
This is already a non-starter. $100 per month.
So, I get what they're trying to do. We're slowly approaching. We're slowly approaching that critical point where streaming services cost as much as your cable bill. That's kind of worrying, especially there isn't really anything new that they are offering because they're not offering original content. If you already have something like Sling TV or Hulu Live or even like HBO now, you already have access to these
Or
local.
YouTube
Yeah,
TV.
yeah, you already have access to these, and plus they all have original content, something that T-Mobile does not have. We'll see how it goes. Maybe it really kicks off. Maybe it doesn't. Who knows? Best of luck to TVision.
No, change the name.
Okay, and moving on. So we talked about Facebook earlier and just how much of a monopoly they are. Um, but now we have Instagram cracking down on inappropriate content. And when I say they're cracking down on inappropriate content, it's not that they're actually cutting it down because they still like money, they still like engagements. They just won't promote your brand or your content in the same way. So let me see. There are three non-recommendable contents that will fall under this new where they will not share your content. It is violence, graphic slash shocking, and sexually suggestive. So if you are an IG model and you are selling your T fits or your T juice or whatever you sell, you may have to switch up your game plan because Instagram will not be promoting that anymore. Um, I think it's good. I mean, it's cool. I don't really dwell into like violence Instagram or graphic Instagram or even sexually suggestive Instagram just because I do a lot of business on Instagram and I don't want to be like, oh, Marcus like porn star 69 or something like just something wild or like Marcus like the video that was black people fighting. Like nah. But so I think it is a step in the right direction. I will say on the other hand that does limit people's creativity. They have to be more creative with their posters, going to force creators or even people just trying to think outside the box. But like everything in Instagram, there is a way to beat the algorithm, and I'm sure there will be. I'm sure there'll be users who crack this algorithm as well.
Yeah, and what I will say is this seems to be a better solution because a lot of these tech companies and a lot of these websites are running into this problem where they have these communities. One of the most prolific has got to be the Tumblr community, which was well known for their sexual content. And when Tumblr said they were going to start cracking down on it, that community got really upset on about them cracking down on it. So what they're doing, what Instagram is doing, I think is a better way of dealing with it for those who still enjoy that type of content. They can still find it, they can still enjoy it, and they will be hidden away sort of from the public eye.
Yeah, for sure. So, but moving on. So the House Democrats, they have stuck a camp. They have followed through on a campaign promise, which is to restore fully net neutrality. House Democrats passed a bill to fully restore net neutrality. So the Save the Internet Act, introduced by Congressman Michael Doyle Jr. last month, would codify into a law consumer protections that existed prior to the FCC's December 2017 repeal of its net neutrality rules. The bill prohibits broadband access providers such as AT&T and Comcast from blocking or slowing internet content or offering select apps and services access to so-called fast lanes. The bill would restore the FCC's authority to govern internet providers under Title II of the Communication Act. The GOP's primary objective to the bill, Democrats argue that without Title II base rules, there would be no cop on the beat to ensure that the rules are enforced. So yeah, I do think this is a step in the right direction. I feel like it will be dead on arrival in the U.S. Senate, just because a lot of our U.S. senators are like the average age of like a senator is 63, which means they haven't grown up with the internet, so they don't know technically what it is or what it truly encompasses. And since they have grown in a different time, they don't know that a lot of people make money through the internet, and when certain avenues are blocked off, that it makes it difficult for people to eat or people to have their own lives. So I do think this is a step in the right direction. This also goes to show that because Congress is significantly younger than Congress is significantly younger than the Senate now, and this just goes to show that bills like this are reflective of the new median age of Congress.
Yeah, I've always believed that we need to keep as many voices in Congress as possible. I object to many age restrictions in our government and in our country, just because you end up with things like this where people who don't understand the way things are going can be easily manipulated into just believing whatever it takes. And that's what we have with the GOP. A bunch of people who didn't understand what was going on and didn't understand how some people get their livelihood from this, and they just passed the bill because somebody gave them a check.
For sure, for sure, for sure. All right, and last thing in the living room, we finally have proof that we've known they existed, but we now have proof of black holes, and that opens up the possibility of what's in our outer space. I feel like we're slowly approaching that point when, like, you know how there's parts of the ocean that people just don't go to. I feel
Yeah.
like we're getting to that point in outer space, like
Well,
going into the other side of a black hole. I'm cool. It's a beautiful picture though, but
oh no,
I don't really
I
need to
did
see
you,
it.
Marcus? Did they ever show you the video of what happens if you go inside a black hole in high school?
No, they did not.
Oh well, let's just say you're not coming out of the other side of a black hole.
Yeah, well, somebody will, and it will not
Oh, they
be.
will not. They
We'll
will
see.
not.
We'll see. I mean, with technology and all that, we'll see. But yeah, that's about it for the living room. Last thing, front porch. The Lion King trailer. Morgan. So on a scale of 10 to 100, how excited for you? How excited are you for this?
After seeing the trailer, I wanted to see him talk a little bit more, but it put me even more at ease. I was at a straight 90. I'll be honest with you, Marcus. I was at a straight 96, and then I saw the Detective Pikachu trailer, and I was more excited for that. So I'll put it at a good 87.
Yeah, I'm all the way in on this new Lion King trailer. I mean, there were people online that said this is why live action Lion King shouldn't happen. We can't tell the animals' emotions, and I'm like, I mean, cartoons are fake, so this is probably
Well,
more realistic. Like, why would like
what they're talking about
Of
is
course,
the
Scar isn't.
expressiveness of the face.
Yeah, of course, Scar isn't going to look evil as a as an animal. That makes no sense at all. Like, of course, he isn't going to look evil. He's going to look like an animal. So yeah, I feel like I feel like I'm super on board. I'm excited to see Donald Glover in this type of role. I'm also ready to see Beyonce
He
and
has
see
a
how
new
she
song
does.
coming out Saturday, I believe.
I'm cool on I'm cool. I'm cool on Childish Gambino. Um, but yeah, no, I'm excited for Lion King. And moving on, Shazam. So, oh wait, I said it wrong. Shazam. All right, all right, let me try one more time.
Okay.
Shazam. All right,
Stop.
so
Stop.
Shazam. It is
Stop.
officially in the works for a sequel, and I saw Shazam over the weekend, and it is by far the most comic accurate, best DC Universe film that they have released.
How would you
since
rank
Green
it
Lantern.
as far as superhero films?
Superhero films, I would rank it probably in I would say at least top 10.
Top 10? Better than Captain Marvel or no?
Um Actually, I would say it was better than Captain Marvel, just because with Captain Marvel you would have had to know a little bit of prior knowledge of just like Captain Marvel and the setting of it. But with Shazam, it is a very family friendly movie, and they took a lot. They took directly from the New 52. I will be talking about this later. We have a Shazam review which we'll be releasing this weekend. But it's officially coming out with a part two. Is well deserved. One of the things that I hope Warner Brothers and DC starts to get right is that they actually put a marketing budget behind Shazam, behind some of these lesser known, or just like in general, just behind their movies in general, and just put a better marketing scheme behind it.
Did you see? Did you see the Joker trailer?
I did see the Joker trailer. I
What do you
think
think about that?
I think the Joker trailer would be good. Will be good. I think the Joker's movie will be all right, but you can't have the Joker without Batman. Like, I'm kind of sick of like these types of movies. Like, Venom was an okay movie because Spider Man wasn't in it, and you can't have Venom without Spider Man. You can't have Joker without Batman. And I get that he was crazy and everything, but even like the rumor of him getting like of his body like turning white, there is like Batman related, so it's kind of hard for him to like go crazy and go all the way there without him having the yin to his yang. But it's going to make a lot of money because people are stupid and they just they like
It
the
looks
gritty.
like a really good character movie, though.
Yeah, it looks like a character movie of a non-comic book. It looks like it looks like a good movie uh, of a well-mannered clown who goes insane. That's what it looks like. It doesn't. When I saw the Joker film, it didn't scream DC. It didn't scream Gotham to me. It screamed, "Hey, crazy guy gets down on his luck and goes insane."
Mm. I'm excited for it.
All right, and another thing I am not excited for: Hawkeye series officially coming to Disney Plus. So, you guys want to know about Hawkeye some more? I'm
Yeah,
laughing.
why not?
I'm
I mean,
laughing.
why
But
not?
Hawkeye, there is a Hawkeye series coming to the new Disney Plus streaming service. It will also be, and this show will also be following in the footsteps of Loki and Scarlet Witch. So it will be starring Jeremy Renner. I don't. Let me see. I think it is post. I think it is post Endgame or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. When it comes to TV, Marvel has a good way of putting it in a place where it doesn't have to be affected by what's going on. They have a couple of like time frames where they can just not deal with the repercussions of their writing.
Oh, okay. So, according to Variety, the series will be an adventure story in which Clint passes the torch to Kate Bishop, his predecessor slash protege in the comics. And I'm actually more of a Kate Bishop fan than I am a Hawkeye fan. So I will definitely be on the lookout for that, and just to see if they take from the comics. I'm sure
Oh,
they will
now
be.
you're on board.
Yeah, I'm on board for Kate Bishop. Hawkeye's kind of boring and he's racist. So he's racist in the comics. I've never been a fan of him. I've always been more of a Kate Bishop fan. All right, and last thing, DC Universe is finally expanding their comic book collection. So, if you guys remember DC Universe, it is the official streaming app of DC, and it has a lot of its movies, a lot of its animated films, a lot of its shows, and comics. But the comics are very hit or miss. But now they finally expanded. They put like I believe they put their whole digital library in it and it's still seven. I think it's 80. I think it's 80 cents this month for new subscribers because of Batman's 80th anniversary.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, no, I'm definitely excited. The only drawback of it is that I have a Jeff Bezos company tablet, and it's not on the Jeff Bezos company tablet, of course, because they have Comixology. So it's not quite on there. So, but yeah, nah, I definitely will be checking out DC Universe online and on my phone, like
Yeah,
always.
this is honestly, this is the like last thing that app needed. Like it had a lot of good like deals and shops, and it's I don't know if you've noticed this, but the TV shows on not Titans, but Doom Patrol especially, they've been doing really well. And
So
this to me, it screams of what needs to be done when you're doing a streaming service, like, and especially when you go back to like Disney Plus. When you say I'm coming out with a streaming service and you're a major content maker and you have been for several years, what I'm thinking is you're gonna put everything you've made onto that streaming service.
yeah,
So
for
that this is
sure.
what they should have done from honestly from the beginning, but finally they're getting it done.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So that was it. Morgan, do you have anything to add?
Nope.
Okay, make sure. Well, let me just plug myself real quick. So, yeah, make sure once again you check out our interracial dating. Make sure you're checking out our the marathon continues. That's what it's called. Sorry, it escaped my mind. We have a whole lot of content coming out this weekend. Of course, I mentioned it earlier. We have a Shazam review, the Umbrella Academy. We have a review of that first season coming out. The 2K League. We're doing a special, just weekly podcast about the 2K League during the summer, so that will be coming out. I think on next Monday, so that's coming out very soon. Yeah. Oh, we're just. Oh, and we have our Denver Pop Culture Con. We'll be back in there, and we're already discussing ways we can be more effective when it comes to our content creation. Make sure you are staying tuned to us because we are really working this summer. We're really trying to elevate 26 in Glencoe to not just be a podcast network, but to be just like the title is the actual media entity. So make sure you are keeping up with us on Twitter at 26ng, on Instagram at 26 and Glencoe, like our Facebook page at 26 and Glencoe Media Network, like our YouTube page at 26 and Glencoe Media Network. Follow me on all social media platforms at One Marcus Flowers. Follow Morgan on all social media platforms at MetroMeta26. And until next time, peace.